Hello everybody, my name is TJ and I'm joined today by America's Grandmaster and the runner-up from week 2 of America's Grandmasters for season 2. It's bloodyface. Hey man, how you doing today?
I'm great. How are you, TJ?
Oh, I'm fantastic. Got to cast some last hero standing this weekend, which is riveting. Not so much as specialist, but still cool. I'm actually gonna kind of dive right into just performance questions thus far. You've been doing really well. Pretty sure at any point in your Grandmaster's career, I could come to you and say, hey, you've been doing pretty well. That's from a surface level, from my perspective, but how do you feel about your performance so far in Season 2 of Grandmasters?
So far, I mean, obviously, since I won the first half of the second season, I feel really great about that performance. I think I pushed myself really hard to make sure I tried my best every week, even when I was already qualified for Division A. And even I qualified for playoffs really early on too, but I still wanted to make sure I was trying really hard every week because I feel like that's the best way to get practice. Coming into second half of the second season, it's a little bit more lax for me. I'm really high up in the earnings for Master Tours, so even if I were to get relegated, I have a very high chance of getting back in. And of course, I've already hit the major goal, which is qualifying for Worlds. So, really my only goal coming into the second half is just win 3 times in a row and just be a gatekeeper. Just want to make sure I can separate myself from the pack as much as I can. Plus, it'd be really cool to start a train.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still pushing myself really hard this season. I still want to do really well. Obviously, there's money at stake, even though it's not tens of thousands of dollars for me. Even if I'm playing for $100, excuse me, or $200, it's still a lot of money. And I'm still going to try my best to, squeak out those little edges. So I feel like my performance this second half has been pretty decent, I guess. It's a very interesting set, Shalamance's. And I feel like, during the preview, I think a lot of people expected there to be a lot of new archetypes because we had new interesting cards like Voracious Reader, for example. And what we've kind of come to see is that there's actually a lot of the same archetypes from last time, just slightly different. There's more weapon-based Bomb Warrior now, for example, and Guardian Animals Druid. Priest has Mindrender Lucia, which kind of validates some combo decks. Of course, we have interesting new decks like Tempo Mage. But even though it's the same archetypes, I think it's still the playstyle is going to be a lot different. And I think there's a lot more created by. It seems like every new expansion that created by just keeps blowing up more and more. And I think that makes decision making a lot more difficult. You just have a lot more random variables to work with. It's a lot more impossible to play around everything. And you kind of have to go with your intuition about what you think is in your opponent's hand. And a lot of times that's just going to come down to experience. So when you don't really have a lot of experience, you're going to be making a lot of mistakes. I know I've been making a lot of mistakes. I know even in LHS day 1, I went 2-2, and both the rounds I lost, I just threw both of them. And for me, coming into the season, I haven't really been focusing as much on my technical play as much as I have been trying to focus on keeping my morale up, because Priest and Warrior are both very popular classes, and a lot of my matches can take up to 2 hours. And, because I'm bringing Priest and Warrior myself, I'm just playing back to back to back. And I'm going to have to play a lot of Hearthstone in a very short amount of time. And, I've been trying to focus on just keeping my morale up, not trying to get overcome by, throwing the last round or whatever, just trying to make sure that I'm still making good decisions there on out. I normally don't ever listen to music while I play because I think it can be distracting, but I've actually taken the opposite approach this GM. And anytime I start feeling stressed out or anytime I start feeling like I'm getting tilted, I just try and listen to music just to chill out and just try and play maybe even a little bit more autopilot, just so I can kind of calm down. Just really taking the emphasis off playing perfect and putting the emphasis more on just trying to keep a good mindset, because I think that's gonna carry over more in the long run.
Yeah, well, maybe that gets you closer to playing perfect as being in a good mindset.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of speaking of new archetypes and also kind of going against what you said of long Priest and Warrior games, you had to go up against Turtle Mage a couple times this past week. One of those you got 3-0'd.
Yeah.
And then in the finals, you ended up just go ahead and saying, you know what, I got 3-0 by it last time. I'm going to ban it.
Yeah.
What was the thought process there? Were you just sick of playing against it because there was no agency, or what do you think of that deck, and why did you change your ban going into the finals?
So just to give some background, Eddie and I prep a lot together, and I've actually have probably put the most amount of effort into prepping with Turtle Mage, even though I've never brought it. Like we've had like several hour-long calls about like how to do infinite loops and stuff, and like different tech card inclusions with Turtle Mage. Because I think me, Eddie, and Killen, and Ego Waffles in the group as well, we all just find it really interesting. And I've played that deck a lot on ladder, and I've lost a lot of confidence in it because I am not that lucky, and I draw double potion fairly often, and it's so demoralizing to just kind of auto lose as soon as you draw it. So I didn't really want to bring a deck that I just felt like, well, there's just going to be certain pan outs that I'm just going to auto lose, and I at least want to, like, if I play like a tempo deck, or if I play a deck that, if I can play a deck that can win off tempo, then I can win any game of Hearthstone. I don't want to just like auto lose. So we've play tested that deck, but we haven't actually like play tested it like super seriously, like super intense practice matches. It's mostly just been like theorizing, and we've each played it on ladder ourselves, and then kind of give our experiences to figure out how we can tune the deck better. But we've never actually like have played priest versus mage like super in depth. It's just all been theory, and I think like that being one of the first times I played against it in a tournament, I know I'm trying my best. I know I'm trying to figure out like all the little edges I can get. And after just getting 3-0'd by Eddie, I just think I kind of realized that, the deck is like super strong, and that I was underrating it a bit. And I think it just, even though it can draw double potion, it's so ridiculously favored against priest and warrior that I just had to give it a ban. I thought I could find some little edges with priest. In the priest matchup, I drew one Mindrender Lucia, and I actually drew Raised Dead. And if you can get two Mindrender Lucias against them, you can play all their small Tortolans, and they'll just be completely out of Tortolans. That's like plan A. Plan B is to just stall until they get their second potion drawn. But if they draw Lorekeeper Polket, they can just use Sunreaver Mage or Nightblade to OTK you over the course of a few turns. And doing that before they can even draw potion. In the game I played against Eddie, he drew Lorekeeper Polket, so I had to go with the Mindrender Lucia game plan. And it's just a really bad feeling when like your only out is, can I get second Mindrender off a Galakron invoke, or can I discover a Raised Dead so I can like find it in the Raised Dead pool? Like the odds of that happening are like probably less than 5%. It's very low. So, basically, if he draws Lorekeeper Polket, he's 95% to win. 95% to win for drawing one card is pretty outrageous. Mm-hmm. I just think that deck was really strong against my lineup, especially when he banned my only aggro deck, which is Rogue. It's very obvious that that was the third time I played against him going to the finals, and the first two times he banned Rogue. So I just assumed he was going to ban Rogue again. So I just didn't want to let that happen. Didn't want to get swept again by Turtle Mage.
Well, it at least made it closer.
It did make it closer, yeah. We just played some mirror matches instead.
Yeah. Which, might be better, might be worse. So I actually interviewed Eddie earlier, and I kind of brought up, and I'll bring the same thing up with you. I said it on broadcast as well. You and Eddie are the top two win rate players of all time in Grandmasters. By a good margin, too. You're 2% above Eddie, and then Eddie's 3% above Frozen in overall win rate, who's third. And it always feels like you guys meet in like top 8s, top 4s consistently. It always feels like you guys are in the conversation for, who's going to make a deep run in playoffs, who's going to get to the World Championship. And I kind of asked him about if you guys have a rivalry. And I know you guys have practiced together because I've heard you guys mention it before. And I was just trying to spark something. But he said your relationship was more akin to a teacher and student relationship, where you're the teacher in this instant and he's the student. He feels like out of any player in Hearthstone, he's learned the most from you. And he feels like that, like you're still like a slight step above him. as far as Hearthstone play goes. Would you agree with this sentiment?
I definitely know that's how he views it because he always tells me that, but I think he sells himself a bit short. I think as far as natural talent goes, Eddie's definitely like really high up there. I think like he definitely has a certain intuition about things that I don't have. I think for me to like develop an intuition, it takes, I need like a lot of experience. I need to like watch what other people do. I need to like look at HS replay. I need to get like, I'm more of like an experimenter, I guess. I like to try a lot of different things. I like to kind of brute force it, try every single idea that I come up with and see which one sticks. Very methodical in that way, very exhaustive in that way. You know, I want to figure out, I don't want to like miss anything. Whereas I think Eddie's a lot more intuitive with his decks. Like, I'll just look on Discord. It'll be the last day. That's not a knock against Eddie, but he's just playing so much League. Even today, killing all day was trying to... He's like, all right, Eddie, it's time to play some Hearthstone. Eddie's like, one more League game, please. And he's like, Killen's like, okay. Eddie comes back. All right, I need to play till I win. Killen's just like flips the table. But like, you know, for as much as he does, he's so good at like coming to really smart conclusions about Hearthstone decks and presenting ideas that I haven't even thought of. And I honestly have no idea where he gets the ideas from, because it'll be like, there have been times where it's like 30 minutes before deck submission. And it's usually when I can like kind of get the most out of Eddie, where he's like, you know, super serious and like really wants to like talk a lot. And it's just like all of a sudden he just has this flow of like all these ideas that like I haven't even thought of. And I'm like starting to like reconsider a lot of different things because he's bringing up a lot of points that I never even thought of. So I think in a way we complement each other really well, because just the way we approach the games are completely different. I'm more about like the work ethic, like work really hard, try every strategy. He's more like the intuitive type that I think it just comes a little bit more naturally to him. Mm-hmm. I feel like if he applied the same work ethic that I did, if he saw it as, I don't know how he sees it, but it, like for me, I see Hearthstone as like my job. And, you know, if you don't really make a lot of money unless you go to Worlds, so it's imperative to me that I make Worlds every year if I'm going to stay in this program, which is very difficult to do because you have 2 chances to be the best out of 16. So, you know, odds if you are 50% win rate are going to be very low. So obviously I have to like have an insane win rate to do that consistently. But I think if he took that same approach, then I think he would, I honestly think he'd probably surpass me. I just think he might have more natural talent than I do. Yeah, it's just different skill sets. I think the game just comes more intuitively to him. And that's why he does so well despite like maybe not playtesting as much as the rest of us.
Well, that's actually very interesting to hear, because it's not something that he brought up with kind of that dynamic. But it does make sense, and you know, he is, because of his win over you in the finals, he is catching you in win rate ever so slightly. Mm-hmm. I think you're 64% and he's now at 62%.
I mean, he also beat me 3 times in that tournament. So yeah, if he's going to close the gap, beating me repeatedly is going to be the best way to do that.
I mean, if you throw out Specialist in Season 1 of Grandmasters, you're crushing everybody by a lot.
Yeah, Specialist Season 1, I don't know. That was a weird funk for me. It's like a new environment, new format. I definitely was not in the best mental headspace, like dealing with like my early losses, because you know, you come into like a master tour or something and you're used to like, you know, when you get your 3rd loss, you're out of the tournament, right? And you don't have to worry about keep playing on. Well, in Grandmasters, you get your 3rd loss, you're like 1-3, you can still make playoffs. You know, you still got to keep like good morale, you know, going into your future rounds. And I just think that I had like a bad early start. I think I started out 0-2 or like 1-1. Well, I remember I started out 1-3, and I think mentally I just kind of collapsed. Like 1-3 is not even that bad of record. It's such a small sample size, and I just let it mentally get to me too much. But yeah, that was a dark part of my past, trying to move past the Specialist, even though we're going to revisit it this week.
Yeah, I was going to say, that was my next question. Unfortunately, you will have to revisit that dark past, because Specialist coming up as the format for this week of Grandmasters. How do you feel about it? Do you think you've crushed those demons and you're ready to conquer Specialist, or are you worried that not playing a multi-class format, which obviously, you know, you've been probably the best multi-class format player over the past 2 years, what does it feel like to go back to Specialist?
I think it's like a really interesting puzzle to solve because it's so far removed from normal Hearthstone, or normal tournament Hearthstone, where you have a ban strategy and everything. So I enjoyed that aspect, but I'd be lying if I said I felt 100% comfortable. I just think it's, even as much as like my rational mind will tell me that, you know, it's just a coincidence that it was just specialist, it's a small sample size, yada, yada, yada. I think there's always going to be something in the back of my mind that makes me feel like something about specialist and me don't click. And I think the only way for me to like really put that thought to rest is just to like do really well this weekend. So like, even though I'm guaranteed Division A and I don't have a lot of time to prep, I'm still going to like try my hardest to, I know I can't say I'm going to try as hard as I would as if I wasn't already in Division A, because I know if I wasn't in Division A, I would probably sacrifice sleep and sacrifice like, you know, like more free time just at the expense of playtesting more. I'm not going to do that, but with all the time that I'm going to spend preparing, I'm going to take it like pretty seriously. And I also have two friends, you know, I have Casey and Kellen that I've been talking to. Kellen's in a really rough spot. Casey's not as in much of a rough spot, and I would like to give them as much feedback in the specialist format as I can, you know, try and help them out because they've been helping me out throughout Grandmasters. So it'd be a shame if, you know, they didn't make Division A after prepping with them.
Hey, well, I'm down for anything that helps Killing all day.
Yeah, I know you're a big Killing all day fan.
You know,
oh, he's got such a good mindset too. Like he hit rank 1 legend after having a rough first 2 weeks, and he's still keeping a positive mindset going into the 3rd week. So I love to see that.
It's good. He needs some help. He needs all the help he can get
going
to last week because he needs a win pretty much.
Yeah, he needs a win, definitely.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all the questions I had for you, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down for this interview.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks, you, TJ.
Well, NP, man, NP. And for anybody else out there who wants to check out more information about Grandmasters or any of the upcoming Masters Tour programs, you can check out all that information at playhearthstone.com/esports.